Recording in progress. Great.
It is.
Oh, who's Roy and who?
I'm Roy. I'm Roy, and this is Jeff.
Hey, all right.
I'm a fat, ugly one.
I got
So how's it going there, Jesse?
doing good in the mountains here in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Holy cow.
Man. Well, are you a Tar Heel fan? Are you going to be watching NCAA?
No, I'm a fan of the Woods, and
Yeah, they don't play much basketball, so good.
No. and BMW motorcycles. We have got the twistiest roads in the world up here, and it's heaven for somebody who's been watched Marlon Brando and the Wild Ones way too many times.
Just stay on the road and you'll be all right. Keep two wheels on at all times.
Yes, yeah.
I see you survived COVID. That's a good thing.
Yes, sirree. And yeah, feeling very lucky. We got through it, and the family at large, even our big family, what we call Ohana in Hawaii, which includes lots of people who are not blood. We didn't lose anybody, so we're feeling very lucky.
I tell you, this is a real honor because you and the Youngbloods with your song "Get Together," that was a song for the society at that time. I mean, that was a huge song. It's one of my favorite songs.
Yes, Steve Miller and I did a version of it a couple of years ago, thinking going into the election, we're going to need to get together. It seems like America's kind of coming apart at the seams, and Get Together says, come on, it's back here. We're strongest, and when we're together, when we do the right things, not when
now Roy was congratulating you and saying thank you for that song. I'm going the opposite way. You have become my enemy because I have to listen to Roy and a lot of other people trying to sing the song that you were so good at.
Oh yes, in every bar and local watering hole. That's right. Yeah, well, it's such a joy to sing it with people. I mean, have you noticed even in the worst, with the most out of tune guy or gal on stage singing it in your favorite restaurant or bar, when the people start singing, it just lifts off like a great speckled bird.
Now, when you guys first recorded the song, did you think it would be as big as it was?
No, it's 5.5 minutes, and in those days that nobody even looked at it. When the record first came out, which was in the fall, this is the Youngbloods, fall of '66. Grizzly Bear was the first single they released, and that was probably 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I think 3 minutes was the outside. And this is amount of time that they wanted a song to be, and it was, everybody was in radio was watching that stuff, and then came Get Together. But it was not the huge hit that it was. It was released in '67, but it was a hit. Youngbloods flew in June 15th, 1967, into San Francisco. I'd never ever been there, and this thing is happening. Everybody's smiling at me in the street. Everybody under 80 is, and I'm thinking, like, these people all can't be high.
Because you're in New York, right? You grew up in the Queens.
Yeah, I grew up in Queens, yeah, and further out on Long Island. So yeah, people in New York at that time, in the city where we were living, they only smiled at you if they wanted money. They were going to hit you up for a spare change. So all of a sudden, to be in a city where everyone is smiling at you in the street, and then I turned on this little radio in the motel, and bam, there's a Get Together on the radio.
Oh wow!
I mean, this was the beginning of the summer of love. So, I mean, we had a hit record in San Francisco. We were just scraping along in New York, and the response at the Avalon, you know, instead of 40 people, there were 400 or whatever. I mean, the place was full. And we thought immediately, wow, this is our new hometown. We got to move here. And then we went right home to New York, finished our second record for RCA Earth Music, and moved to about 35 miles north of the city, out into the country. I'd been on the Lower East Side for about 7 years, and I had always dreamed of living in the country. So, and we saw this. Marin is the first county north. When you go over the Golden Gate Bridge north from San Francisco, you're in Marin County, and out by the ocean, out near Point Reyes and Inverness, is so beautiful.
So now, did you have any pushback from your other band members to move out there? I mean, that's a pretty big culture shock going from Queens, New York, out into the San Francisco area. Was everybody on board, or did anybody go, hey, time out, let's talk about this?
No, I think we all, I mean, all of a sudden we're playing our first gig. The place is full. The audience loves it. The love coming off the crowd was something we'd never seen in New York. I mean, no, we couldn't resist it. We had visited, the drummer's brother was out living out there in a little town called Olima. And we had been there, and we saw it, and we all went, God, this place is beautiful.
That's cool.
And then we started thinking, place is full. And of course, I mean, venues were, I don't know how many there were in the Bay Area, but must have been 20 or 30. I mean, music was everywhere, so we could work. So all of us said, okay, we're moving to the country. We don't, you know, we're a self-contained band. We got our own stuff. We don't need to live in the city. We don't need to live in the city anymore.
So how did that affect you financially? I mean, with the band, were you getting a lot of offers for big venues?
Well, on the West Coast and the North Coast, all the way to Seattle, yes, we played a lot of festivals, and and we played a lot of beautiful old, dance halls from the big band days that were just sitting around. And promoters started doing shows there in every town on the coast.
That's awesome. Now, this is getting close to Woodstock time. Did y'all get an invite to play out at Woodstock?
I don't think we did. For some,
come on. I'm going to write a letter.
Yeah, please. Yeah, for some reason we were booked at one of Bill Graham's places in the Bay Area on that weekend, and a big mistake. But Get Together was re-released in the spring, in June of 1969. So, and in between its release in 67, and then it went on to this Brotherhood commercial on television late at night.
Oh, cool.
And so it kind of penetrated late night TV, young people. And by 1969, it was there. The whole country was in a place where they could embrace.
Now, speaking of late night TV, some of the consequences or some of the good things from that song, didn't it also get y'all invited on to The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson?
Yep. Yeah.
And for people that don't know, what kind of happened with that show there, Mr. Jesse? Not quite exactly what people were expecting.
Yeah, my poor mother was sitting there waiting for me. So I think they must have had a cancellation, and they called around looking for somebody to fill. this because they had different music every night. So we never had a contract except a verbal contract.
Right.
We had just released Elephant Mountain. So we said, well, of course, we'll play Get Together, but we want to play a song off. We want to play Sunlight off the new record. And so they agreed to that. And so we, this was like a few days later, we flew to New York to do the show, and the sound check was a little rocky, but I think by the end of that, they informed our manager when we were getting ready to go to dinner that there wasn't room in the show for 2 songs. And he said, excuse me, we have a verbal contract. That's why we came here. We have a new record out. And I guess they just said, well, it's that attitude. Play your hit and go home.
Okay.
That just pissed us off. So, I mean, we had a verbal contract, and it was about time for them to start treating musicians like they're equal partners.
Yeah, exactly.
So we walked off. I mean, we didn't the show. Yeah, we just said, you honor your word or buzz off.
And your mom's still waiting for you to play on it tonight.
Yeah, she's still. Oh, poor mom, because he said
basically you're like the
He said some
1960s equivalent of the Oscars. You were the Will Smith slap on the Tonight Show. People were talking about you all over town the next day. And that's
it's still, obviously we still are. Yeah, it's one of those things. It probably didn't happen to Carson much, but just the idea of long-haired businessmen who were musicians refusing to be treated like they're not equal partners in a contract. And, people have been treating musicians like that from the very beginning of the recording industry and television. So it was time, we weren't going for it. We didn't care enough about Johnny Carson and his show and to let them just push us around and not fulfill their end of the contract. So us not being able to promote our new record, which was important to us and which they gave us their word. So
now you guys were riding high there with Get Together. And so what happened with the Youngbloods? I mean, to have such a song like that, what actually came about to make the Youngbloods disband?
Well, I think we just kind of ran our course. Corbett left. It was a band that was started out of our friendship, mine with the guitar player Jerry Corbett, the fellow who had the deep voice who sang with me on Get Together, and he left. So we made the first 2 records together, and we started Elephant Mountain. We had moved to California, so we were recording in LA instead of New York. And Jerry just decided he couldn't fly anymore, and we were in Northern California. And I think he just, either it was acid or it was, maybe he just wanted out of the band. And
well, with the acid, he was flying all the time. So
yeah, I don't know. It happened very suddenly. And Charlie Daniels produced Elephant Mountain. So Charlie was,
oh, wow.
He and Charlie may have bonded already, both being from Georgia and being country boys. So So he went off, and Charlie, he made a Charlie album. He produced a Charlie album, and Charlie produced a Jerry Corbett album, and they went out and toured as the Corbett Daniels Band, and that was really the beginning of Charlie's fame. But Jerry didn't stick with that one either. But they were together for a couple 3 years. So then we released Elephant Mountain in '69, right at the end of the same year that Get Together had become a hit. And we played as a trio for a couple 3 years, and then it just, we wandered into oldies. I guess I wasn't writing much, and it began to be a little boring. And we were signed with Warner Brothers. Wonderful. Warner Brothers gave us a label.
Oh, cool.
They gave us Raccoon Records, and they said, "What would you guys like?" And we said, "How about a label where we could record some of our friends who are really talented and put out their records on our label?" And they said, "Okay." That's crazy. I mean,
And free pizzas every night.
so I recorded one of my favorite folk singers, Michael Hurley, and I recorded another wonderful singer-songwriter, whose name is escaping me now. And I recorded myself. I did an acoustic record with a piano player who is my ex-wife's kid brother, and this wonderful drummer who had been playing with Charlie Daniels and Corbett, but decided he would rather play with me. And so I got excited again, making that record with them. I played bass and guitar on it. We just did the tracks without bass. And I had just built a studio on the ridgetop. And so I was learning, I was learning how to record, how to be a recording engineer. And
that wasn't your favorite part of the industry, was it? I mean, I know you love singing and songwriting. The actual recording and stuff, that's not where you had your passion, was it?
Yeah, I developed a passion for it. I wouldn't have built a studio. I said, why do I have to fly to LA? Well, I could build a studio right here next to my house. And so there was a big rash of that, and Warner Brothers was being very generous. They had the Dead at that time. A lot of bands were moving into building their own studios. So that's what I did. And I learned, for 20 years, I produced and engineered my own records.
Now, are you still doing any production for any other artists that are up and coming right now?
No, I did it for a few during Raccoon Records, and I thought, man, I really have to love you. I did one for Corbett, and he's my brother. So I mean, and I said, man, this is hard. I'll do it for myself, and I'll do it for my soul brother, but I'm not doing this for anybody else. It's too much work.
They're awful. Can't find anybody that can sing.
Now, do you have the rights to Get Together?
No. In those days, you made a record they have the rights forever.
Oh, man.
Although, and even to get paid, there was no mention in the contract about music for movies. So they used to, when they'd get 50 grand for licensing Get Together or something, they would just keep that. And it took us, probably 5-8 years in court to finally, and a lot of other bands were doing it, and artists were saying, wait a minute, that money should be shared equally between us and the record company. And by somewhere in the 80s, I think we started getting some money.
Yeah, because that song's been in some major hits, Forrest Gump, and featured in The Simpsons. Come on, if you make it in The Simpsons, you're good to go. Now, you've had artists all around your periphery since you were a little kid. I mean, didn't you go to the same school as Simon and Garfunkel and a couple of those guys?
Yeah. Yeah. But the three of us were in, I think it was PS 72. It was right down the street from me. I know Artie lived a little further away. Paul was in school with us, but I never really met him. Maybe they hadn't become, they started making music when they were young teenagers I forget the name of their first band together, but so yeah, that was a great class for the class of whatever it was.
Have you been back to the class reunions 25, 40 years?
No, that's primary school. This was fourth grade, we don't. Yeah, everybody would be in a wheelchair, I think, or dead.
Oh, gee whiz. And that's because Johnny Carson put a hit out on them, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so.
What are you doing now? I mean, how do you keep busy now?
Well,
I know you moved to Hawaii at a coffee plantation. That was pretty cool.
yeah, we were there for about 10 or 11 years. That we actually the Rust, and then we moved to South Carolina, where Connie grew up in her hometown. Hawaii was wonderful. Learning to farm. I mean, I'm from Queens. Trees in Queens, they're all this big around.
What are these things?
So I became a coffee farmer. I made a couple records there, and I would fly to the mainland and tour. But during COVID, we started something called One Song at a Time. I remember the first day of lockdown. Connie, we're in South Carolina now, near Augusta, Georgia, right by the Georgia line. And I said, well, we're not going out to dinner. What are we going to do? She said, go get your guitar, and I'll get my phone, and I'll take a phone. I'll do a little movie of you playing. You should play Sugar Babe or something fun like that, because I think this is kind of weird. This feels weird, and I bet there are a lot of people out there feeling kind of weird. And we could just bring a little light in. So we started doing that 4 or 5 days a week because we were staying home. We were isolating, and it gave us. So I'd spend most of the day figuring out, a lot of these songs are written with a band in mind and only created with a band. So I had to work on a solo arrangements for all these different songs. And that took a lot of time. It was great.
Oh,
and then
her phone. Connie, quit recording me. I'm just eating
breakfast. Yeah, I loved it. She would wait until I was, and maybe by 3 or 4 o'clock.
I don't have pants on yet, Connie.
Really?
Come on. And so now we have to address a little rumor that we hear out on the streets right now. I mean, of course, anybody that's heard your music knows that you have a certain genre, kind of a folksy, American folksy rock type thing. But we were astonished and excited to hear that you're starting a new project, but it's going to be under the gangster rap genre.
Is that true?
No.
Oh, man. I figured you'd have your bling already and just figure out your street name.
Yeah. I went through a bling. That was earlier, though. The jewelry is all in my safe.
It's not on your.
But what that playing solo on, and we would just put stuff up on Facebook for people just for free, because we were being a part of helping, and then I was getting pretty good at playing solo, and we thought maybe we'll do a couple of empty house concerts. Because
Isn't that called burglary?
Yeah, well, nobody, of course, the theaters were shut down. There's a little, 200 or 300 seat theater in our hometown of Aiken, and nothing's going on. So we thought, you're getting pretty good at solo. Let's make a couple concerts. Let's video a couple concerts with, 3 or 4 cameras and good sound, and it gave us something to focus on. And I think by that time I was halfway into making a solo album, which was something I hadn't done since too long ago to even think of. All folk artists start solo, at least most of us. And yeah, I had not visited that. So I was making their record. I think it was called Highway Troubadour, and it came out, what was that, in 21 or 20? I can't remember. But we did, but we never got around. We recorded 2 concerts and never got around to putting them out. 2 empty house concerts, yeah. And so now they're coming.
There you go. And we know a lot of people that want to hear them. I mean, your music has, been part of American culture for decades. So thank you for all the good tunes that you have put out there in the past.
Are you writing a book or memoirs or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm writing a book. Now, just let me tell you when this is happening. The empty house concerts are, so Sunday, April 10th at 8 p.m. and also April 24th, which is a Sunday the next week at 8 p.m. And the April 24th one has a VIP pre-show, and I guess I'm involved in that.
Well, yeah, you gotta be invited.
Yeah, I got to be invited and grilled about Johnny Carson, probably.
Of course.
So that's these mandolin. You guys know mandolin.com? These guys do a fair amount of putting out concerts.
That's cool.
That were done, especially during during COVID times.
That's amazing. Now, are you writing any new material right now for yourself?
I wish. I'm waiting for the tap to start. I've been playing a lot. I just played my first 3 solo shows. I have, I did my first one in Rockport, Massachusetts, a couple of weeks ago, where it was the first place I ever saw the ocean. And I have these little memories of Rockport because my folks are from Massachusetts. The opening act canceled or got sick or something. And so I went on and played for an hour and 40 minutes. And I thought, wow. And the people loved it. And I said, I can do this.
They really like me.
I'm going to be a rock star yet.
Yeah, well, it was a thrill. I hadn't played, I'd done before anything except a TV screen or a computer like this one in 3 years. Yeah, and I went on and played a show with Tom Rush close by in Lexington, Massachusetts, and then one last week with Judy Collins.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
I love playing along. I've really, and I think I said to my son Tristan when I went out to play the first one, so I said, I'm a little nervous about this, son. I've been working on this for like a year. I think it's time for me to find out if it works. He said, well, you're going to find out, Dad. You step on that stage in 2 days. Yeah. So, yeah.
You're going to have to let us know when you finish your book, too.
Yes, the book, we got into it earlier in COVID and before COVID, and then it kind of slowed down. We got into doing the empty house concerts and and Highway Troubadour solo album and promoting that. And yep, it's time to get back to the book.
That's awesome. Well, we're excited for anything that you're got planned in the future. If you're ever anywhere near Arkansas, definitely stop in, and I'll tell you when Roy's out of town, you can play an Empty House.
Empty House right here.
Yes, well, I've been known to play live on the radio. I mean, what's the point if you're there and your guitar's there, especially if you're playing solo like I am? Yes, I'd love to play.
Awesome.
So those two shows are, they won't be repeated. So the April 10th and April 24th, so that they're on mandolin.com. That's how people get to them. I think it's a $15 ticket or something like that.
Oh,
And
I'm out. All right.
Well, you can write that off your taxes.
yeah, so they're not gonna repeat them. So that's why we are doing it. And have you guys heard of Tripping on My Roots?
No. What is that?
Yeah. Tripping on My Roots is a podcast that I started a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I only got it. It's a video podcast, and it's probably, you can get to it through jessecolinyoung.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did one about the first Youngblood album has a Blind Willie McTell song on it called Statesboro Blues. And that a few years later, the Allman Brothers had a big hit on that. And I found out that Blind Willie was buried 40 miles from where Connie and I lived. So we looked at each other. You know, we're having coffee one Sunday morning. She said, Blind Willie McTell's buried just over the river in Thompson, Georgia. So we went over there and we went to his graveside, and the museum downtown has a Blind Willie exhibit.
Oh, wow.
And they have like 12 of these fiberglass, huge 12-string guitars that are all over the, one's on the real estate lawn and one's down by the railroad station. So they really celebrate, and they do a yearly Blind Willie McTell Blues Festival there.
Awesome.
So I just said, Connie said, instead of me doing this with, she did some footage with the camera, and our friend, videographer, who'd been doing some work with us, said, we should really do this with cameras. If we're going to do it, let's do it up real. So we started in. Yes, and I got to play a live Statesboro Blues, sitting by Blind Willie McTell's grave.
Oh my gosh, man, that's got to be epic. Not very many people can say that.
Did he applaud?
No, but I'm sure he was grateful. And I thanked him. I said, there's got to be at least 10,000 guitar players who you inspired over these years. Thank you for the inspiration. Yeah.
So cool. Well, we're not going to keep you. You obviously got a little bit on your plate between the books and the concerts and starting your gangster rap label.
That's right. I will be touring. Oh, and I'm going to do a tour a solo tour in July on the West Coast.
Wow.
With my daughter. Now, Jazzy Young has got music on Spotify, Jazzie.
Oh.
There's a couple of Jazz Youngs, but Jazzy Young, it's got a beautiful EP out that came out last May.
Really? That's your daughter?
Songwriter and singer, yes, my youngest. And she's going to tour with me. So we're going to do a father-daughter solo tour.
If you ever come to Little Rock on a tour, you can bring your daughter and we'll take you guys out for some of the best barbecue you've had. You have to pay for it, but we'll take you out.
Does Route 66 go through Arkansas?
It does.
Yep.
Well, we're thinking about a Route 66 tour. We'll see how this solo tour goes on the West Coast. And we even probably start in Chicago and work our way out to LA that way.
That's awesome. Well, Jesse, man,
Yeah.
thanks for taking the time. Again, I appreciate all the iconic tunes that you let us listen to. Unfortunately, Roy was singing some of your parts, but
Yeah.
that's all right. But stay safe. Stay
I was getting ready to go on
COVID-free,
your tour.
and hopefully,
Yeah, that starts in July.
all right. We'll definitely check out your concerts, and hopefully there's a book in the near future, and we'll go to your website and we'll look at your daughter's stuff. A lot of stuff in the works. Glad to hear it.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate
All
it.
right, guys. Thanks for your interest. My
Take care
pleasure.
there, Mr. Man.
Thanks, Jesse. Bye-bye.
Yeah. You too, guys. Take care. Leaving meeting.
Okay, there we go. Jesse, Colin Young. I mean, get together with such a song of the generation that where I grew up. So, I mean, everybody, that was everywhere. It was in Woodstock videos. It was in everything, you know, even Forrest Gump and The Simpsons. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah, that song did big things. You know,
He didn't get any royalties for it. Isn't that crazy?
that's,
Oh my gosh, that's pretty messed up.
I mean, I'm sure he still got paid pretty well, but can you imagine if someone had a song that big now, how much money that would be worth to him?
Because it's still big now. I mean, you can talk to people and say, hey, have you ever heard of Woodstock? Some kids and stuff I've asked. They don't have any idea who Woodstock is, or Jimi Hendrix, or Janis Joplin, or Led Zeppelin. They don't know who any of those people are. But when you play that song, they go, oh, I know that song.
Oh yeah, exact same thing. You know, telling people about this interview, it's like, nah, I'm not sure who that is. Well, you play them that song, they know exactly who we're talking
But
about.
that's just one of the interviews that we do, and you can find it all on www.arkansasshowcaseradio.com show. I mean, we've got all these interviews, and he mentioned some of them, Charlie Daniels.
Yep.
He was one of our very first interviews that we did on the radio. So stay tuned, check them out. We've got a lot more coming up, and we're doing it just for you.
Make sure you go to jessecolinyoung.com, check out his Empty House concerts, and Jazzy Young, Jazzie Young. That's music from his daughter. So go check those.
And go back and
Sites.
re-listen to Get Together. You're going to go, holy crap, that was that guy.
I'm gonna cry. It's so beautiful.
But that's it for us. We're out of here. Bye-bye. And y'all take care now.